Hey guys, and welcome. In today's video I'm going to cover one of the biggest fears and one of the biggest things that I see holding people back when they want to start their Amazon journey, and that's the fear of getting scammed, the fear of sending their money off to China or wherever their manufacturer may be and just never seeing anything of the money again. And I'm going to go through 9 different steps to guarantee and ensure that this never happens to you. It's totally natural to have fears, especially if it's the first time that you're doing something, and compound that with that these sellers are overseas and you never get to meet them face to face. You never get to actually see the products until you've handed over the cash. And I understand that it's totally natural, but we're going to get these things, these 9 things put in place, and it's going to protect you at every single step of the journey, from starting to research your product right through till after you've purchased. Okay, I'll run through these 9 in order of how you'll be doing them to ensure that you're going to be covered every single step of the way. The first thing that we're going to be doing is going to AliBaba.com, and then once you're there, select this drop down bar and go to suppliers. Then once you've got the suppliers here, search on whatever it is that you're going to be searching as a potential product for yourself. In this example, I'm just going to put in raincoats. So as you see here now, it's going to list out all the manufacturers that sell raincoats. The first thing that you want to do is make sure that you've got your trade assurance and your gold supplier boxes ticked at the top. So here you want to have this ticked, gold supplier. That's going to remove out a lot of the other, not necessarily shady sellers, but these ones are gold suppliers that you're not going to have problems with these. And then the other thing that you want to do is have this trade assurance ticked as well. And again, it's going to remove quite a few of them, but as you can see, 985 suppliers, there's still plenty to choose from. This trade assurance really is going to cover you. Whatever it comes to, this will cover you. And I actually cover it towards the end of these steps when it comes to actually purchasing your products from a supplier. But just for now, make sure it's selected whilst you're going through and finding suppliers that you think can provide you the product that it is that you're looking for. And the great thing is about this trade assurance is AliBaba will step in if you have any problems that is unresolvable, and you will get a full refund. So just make sure that these 2 are both selected. Once you've now got a list of high quality suppliers, I recommend that you contact a minimum of 5, but ideally 10. I highly recommend you contacting 10. And the reason I say that is because some won't reply to you. They just get bombarded with people all the time requesting quotes. So some won't get back to you. And what you're really trying to do is trying to get a ballpark figure of how much it's going to be for the products and how much it's going to be for the shipping. So obviously you're going to be asking every single supplier for the same thing. You're going to be requesting the same amount of units, the same shipping, whether it's air or boat, and also the same unit shipping as well. So for example, it may be 200 or 500 of these raincoats. You're going to be contacting the suppliers and asking each and every one exactly the same thing. And then you're going to start to see a common theme. You'll find out that the raincoats, for example, are going to be within a certain price range. And if 1 or 2 of those suppliers really stands out and they're 50% or 100% more expensive, then obviously you can just steer clear of them. And the same with the shipping as well. Sometimes they do competitive pricing on the raincoats or on the product in itself, but then they're double or triple the price of the shipping. So you want to be contacting 10 of them, requesting all these quotes, and then comparing them all against each other to see which ones are going to stand out and which ones are kind of generally in keeping with all the rest. The third thing you want to be doing when you contact these suppliers is make sure that you request door-to-door shipping. And what I mean by that is from their door to the door of the Amazon warehouse or warehouses. There's various things that they sometimes leave out and you don't find out until it's too late. For example, a freight forwarder. The manufacturer will make all of your raincoats in this example and they will be left at their warehouses, and you need a freight forwarder to take them from the warehouse to the courier. So for example, if UPS is going to be couriering them from China to the warehouses in the US, you need a middleman to get it from the manufacturer's warehouse to the UPS warehouse or shipment center to then be able to ship it out to the US. And what sometimes happens is they will leave out the freight forwarder's fee because it obviously reduces the cost down and it looks good on paper. When you're reviewing these quotations, it looks good on paper. But you want to make sure that you request door-to-door shipping. And if they don't understand that term, then just explain it to them. But most of them will do when you actually request it. And this definitely isn't a fee that you want left out, because I had this in one example and they had left out a $500 fee. And then when it actually came to it, I needed to pay an additional $500 because otherwise the product was just going to be sitting there in their warehouse and I had no way of getting it from the manufacturer's warehouse to UPS, and so I had to pay the $500. The next one is samples. Once you've negotiated with your suppliers and have some prices that meet your criteria, the next thing that you want to do is order some samples from these suppliers. This is something I see a lot of people skip for two reasons. First, they get caught up in the excitement and just want to order the products, because let's face it, the sooner you order the products, the sooner they're going to manufacture them, and then the sooner you're going to be able to start selling them on Amazon. And secondly, they assume that the quality of the products is going to be what they think it is, purely based on a couple of the pictures that they've seen. My advice is always order samples. Yes, sometimes it can be a little expensive. If something is being sold for $4 or $15 by the manufacturer, they may very well want to charge you $50 for that, but I highly recommend you doing that. Trust me, it's a lot better to do it this way. It's much better than ordering 200 of them or 500 of them arriving at Amazon and then you finding out that they're dog shit. And at that point, it's just too late. You've got them sitting in the warehouses, people are going to continue to keep buying them, and then they're going to get them, realize that they're defective and broken, or they're not what they thought they were. They're going to request refunds, they're going to leave you bad reviews. And if that continues long enough, Amazon will just completely remove your entire listing, and then you're totally stuck with the remainder of that inventory in the Amazon warehouses and no way to even sell it on Amazon. This next one follows on from the previous one. Make sure that you use PayPal when you're paying for your samples. You can send transfers over as long as you've got their email address or their contact information. You can send them the money via PayPal. And a second layer of defense on this is to have a credit card linked to your PayPal account. There's two layers of defense here now. You have PayPal, who will step in and try and resolve the issue if there is any problems, but then you also have your credit card as a backup as well, and if the worst comes to the worst, you can just report it to your credit card company and they most definitely will sort it out for you. Be aware on this, sometimes suppliers will try and push for you to do bank wire transfers, and I most definitely would recommend you don't do that, because that's just sending money off. There's no way of recouping that. At least with PayPal, and then the second layer of defense with the credit card, there's ways for you to get your money back. There's people between you and the supplier that can get involved and help to resolve the issue. But if you just send it off with a bank wire transfer, you've got no chance of ever getting that back again. And just a word of wisdom here as well. Sometimes when you contact these suppliers and you start saying that you want to buy a sample, initially they will tell you, no, we don't do PayPal, you have to pay via wire transfer. And in my experience, every single time this has ever happened and I've said no, absolutely not, I want to pay via PayPal, eventually, begrudgingly, they will give you the email address, they will give you the PayPal details. And the reason they do this is because the PayPal fees are way higher than if you just simply transfer the money to them in a bank wire. So they're just trying to save themselves money, but make sure that you push to be able to pay with PayPal. The next one is get the contact details of your supplier, meaning either their WhatsApp number or the WeChat. The WeChat app seems to be a much bigger communication app over in Asia, so they may try to get you to do that. But either way, you want to be able to communicate with them outside of AliBaba, because you would have already communicated with them up to this point, but for the most part it would have been email at this point. You would have requested a price quotation, you would have gone back and forward a few times on that, then you would have ordered the sample and you would have gone back and forward a few times at that point as well. But now you want to be able to make sure that you can get hold of them ideally through a messenger app. In all my experience that I've had, it's way easier, with exception for the time zone, to be able to communicate with them, to send them pictures and whatever you need to do instantaneously over one of the messaging apps. This also has the added bonus of you starting to be able to develop a proper business relationship with these people, because if it works out that their product is what you want it to be and you start selling this in the long term, you could be communicating with these people for years to come. So you really do want to start developing a good business relationship with these people. And the next one, as I briefly touched on in the first point, is make sure that you use trade assurance. So you've received your sample, everything's fine with it, and now you want to go ahead and you want to order 200 of them or 500, however many it may be from your manufacturer. When you're selecting that manufacturer and you're placing the order, make sure that you have trade assurance turned on, because this is going to cover you on the big purchase. You want to make sure that you have this trade assurance in place, because if anything goes wrong with 200 to 500 units or however many it is that you're ordering, you want to have that in place. That trade assurance is going to allow AliBaba to get involved and to get you a full money back guarantee. And getting the trade assurance is a very easy thing to do. All you're going to want to do is contact your supplier, start the order, and then you're going to see that there's various different steps across the top. And all you're going to want to do is make sure that when the time comes, you make sure that you select the trade assurance. You have to have that selected to be able to have that turned on. Also, again, as I touched on earlier when ordering a sample, you want to be making sure that when you pay for this, there's also a credit card attached to that as well, for the exact same reason. You want that credit card as the second layer of defense. I've never ever had a problem where the AliBaba won't resolve it as long as I've got the trade assurance on. But if for whatever reason they weren't able to, I don't know why they wouldn't be able to, but there's also the backup of having the credit card there as well. And as you know, you report anything to the credit card company and they instantly get involved and they instantly resolve it. Depending what the product is and how many of them it is that you're ordering, this is most likely going to be for at least $1,000 upwards, maybe $2,000 or $3,000. So you want to make sure at this point in time you're as protected as possible. And the way that the suppliers have always done it with me is you have to pay 30% of the total amount up front, which is going to get them starting the manufacturing process. So let's say, for example, it's $1,000 total. You're going to pay them 30%, so the $300 up front. And then once they've manufactured all the products, which depending on what it is normally 2 to 4 weeks, once they've manufactured all the products, you're then going to have to pay the 70%, the additional $700 at the end of it. And this nicely leads me on to my last point. And that is, get an independent inspection done. Whatever you do, make sure that you spend the money to get an independent inspection done. And as you can see here, via the AliBaba website, you can find inspectors. Obviously China or wherever it is that you're ordering from are going to be big countries, so you need to be able to find out the postal code or the zip code. And all you do is you go in here and then you find an inspection company which is as close to your manufacturer's warehouse as possible, and then they will go in and they will independently inspect the products for you. And this is a pretty easy thing to arrange as well. All you do is you find an inspector and then you arrange between the inspection company and your manufacturer on an agreed upon date, and then the inspection company will go in and then they will inspect all of your inventory, and then they write up a nice report. They take pictures which they include within the report as well and send it to you, typically the next day, and then you can see exactly what condition everything is in. Is it exactly what you thought it was going to be? Does it look how it should? Are the logos printed where they should be? Is the packaging what it should be? You want to make sure that everything is exactly as it should be, because as soon as you authorize this, then you're going to be expected to pay the final 70%. And my recommendation with this, when you're contacting the inspection companies, tell them that you want a random inspection, because there's various different inspections that they offer. The random inspection, for example, if you had 200 units, they will go in and they will just randomly open different boxes, open up the products and just randomly inspect things. And out of 200 units, they typically would inspect about 30 to 50. And obviously the more units you've got, the more that they're going to inspect. The reason I recommend a random inspection instead of inspecting every single unit is because it can get quite expensive. If you've got 500 units or 1,000 units, however many it is that you're ordering, you don't need to get every single one of those inspected. I had this personally. I had 500 units that I had randomly inspected, and they already found 20 that were defective. So I then went back to my manufacturer and said, look, out of all of these, they've already found 20. I need you to open up all the boxes, go through all of them again and inspect every single one of them. And then when my manufacturer did that, it actually turned out that there was 50 that were defective. So I had all the good ones shipped over as I was going to in the beginning, and then they just had to remanufacture the defective ones and send them over. It was about a week later. Depending on what it is that's being inspected and how many of them, the price will vary, but for me, I've always had from 200 units to 1,000 units inspected, and it's never cost me more than $150. Typically it's around 100 to 150, but then AliBaba, every once in a while, they do also offer this for free. I've had it twice where when you make a purchase, they will offer the inspection service for free. And it's exactly the same thing. You just arrange it in exactly the same way. You use the same companies. The only difference is it just doesn't cost you any money. And as I said earlier, you want to make sure that they're independent inspection companies as well. Don't take the recommendation of your manufacturer. You want to have an independent company come in that has got your best intentions at heart and not the manufacturer's. And the only way to do that is to get an independent company come in and they work on your behalf. So hopefully now, after I've explained these 9 steps to you, you can rest assured that there's most definitely things that you can do to put in place to protect yourself, and you don't need to let that fear hold you back. Don't let it stop you starting this journey. Hopefully you got some value from this video, and if you did, please hit the subscribe button and hit that notification bell. I've got a ton of new videos coming out over the next few months. Thanks for watching.